for quorum, is that right?
You do, yeah, you need 5 for quorum. I just started the recording, so this is a meeting of the Town of Amherst Cultural Council, and we have not reached quorum yet. And the purpose of this meeting is for the group to discuss the tool that will be used to rate all of the applications that have been received for this year's grant cycle. If we don't reach quorum, oh, there we go, Jess is here, so you're good. So at this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Bill and to Cody. I think, Bill, it might be your turn to be the chair for this meeting.
Yeah, I think so. If Cody's all right.
And I have pressed record. Who would like to be the host? Bill, can I pass it off to you?
Sure.
Great. Awesome. Great. So you're going to look at the tool and hopefully make some decisions about how it's working or if it's not working, and any and all changes that you want to be made, I am happy to make them.
All
I
right.
am unexpectedly out to dinner on the town this evening, so I've made Bill the host, and I will do the minutes for everyone since I'm not hanging out for the meeting. I'll do the minutes for this meeting and I will present them at the next one.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Hey, Jess. All right, so I will start by saying it's first time as chair. So if I miss something in terms of like appropriate actions, just call it out. I think we need to take a roll call first. Is that right? Yeah, okay. So I'll just go by order I see on my screen. Evelyn.
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Cody.
Here.
Jess. And I'm obviously here. Okay. The agenda today has been called to order. Public comment. Let's see where. Maybe the host, but I don't know where the public room is. The comment room. Sorry. See it anywhere. So let me say if there's anybody in the room who wishes to, from the public who wishes to comment, please raise your hand. Assume that will pop up on my screen.
I think you usually would see the number of participants if there were, because they just can't,
And the number,
they need
yeah.
to be, yeah. So I think
It's just
probably,
this.
yeah, probably we're good, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Okay, and then minutes from the previous meeting. Have you all had a chance to review?
I have personally
Yeah.
not had a chance, but I would
Okay.
appreciate a recap if that's okay.
Sure, let me. Sorry, I thought I had them open, but I do not. So give me just a second here. And so we have minutes from the last meeting as well as corrected minutes from the meeting before. Sorry, the document center is not opening up for me. For some reason. I apologize.
No
There we
worries. I'm also happy to review after the meeting. I just didn't realize I should review it.
Yeah, because we have to, I guess, approve them, right?
Yeah.
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 Do you want me to try to pull up the last one, Bill? Because I wrote them, so.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
My connection.
No worries. Hold on. Just give me a second. You can keep talking.
Okay, thank you. And then just to quickly go over the rest of the agenda tonight, as Angela noted, we will take a look at the evaluation tool and discuss, have put forth any recommendations we have for changes, and take a vote on the tool, and review the financial report for this grant cycle. And then any new business that hasn't come up or has come up in the last 48 hours, and then
I could share my screen if you give me permission to, so I can show everyone the minutes, because they're not
Yes.
long, so I'm just kind of.
Hold on.
If you like.
Sorry, I don't usually use Zoom, so I'm not familiar with all of. Here. Okay. Here, let me do that. All right. Rachel, see if you can share now.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Looks okay. Let me just get the minutes up.
Thank you.
Sure. Is this one?
Here we go.
No, that's the
Oh,
score
that's
sheet, I
the-
guess.
That's
Yeah,
the panel book.
sorry.
Yep.
It's right here. Let's see. Um, let's see. Oh, it's down here. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's just the kind of the mechanics in the beginning. And I think the main thing was we had to change the minutes from just add something to the
Yep.
minutes from the previous meeting.
Right.
And then you okay, Evelyn? Okay, great. And then we just talked about the financial report that is now available because it wasn't available for the last meeting. And then we talked about how we want to proceed with the scoring. And I think the consensus was that we would use a spreadsheet again, like
Mhm.
last year, but like maybe a modified one. So Angela offered to set that up for us. Okay, and there was talk about like the fact that we would review all the applications before we have deliberation meetings, like to talk about the grants, so to make it like, just we can talk about them as a group. So because last year we did it in batches, right? We sent it in batches. So
Right.
so I think we agreed on that. Was there anything else that oh yeah, because also there was a talk about maybe just putting in, because for if we have individual opinions about maybe how much grant a particular applicant should get, like we could tentatively put in the numbers for that as part of the scoring.
Right.
That
And
would-
also
yeah,
keep
go ahead.
keep a tally so that we don't go over. So that our discussions are bound already by the actual dollars.
It looks like this might be somebody else in the meeting room now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Or is that still Angela? Because I see 6 participants.
Yep, I see 6 as well.
I think we have a community member. Perhaps.
We do.
Hello.
Let me. Joel, if you can hear me, I see you. All right, why don't we finish closing out the minutes and then we can open for public comment if there is any. Does that sound correct? Okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
And a second?
Thanks a second.
Okay, minutes are approved as written for last week and as edited for the week before that. Excellent. Thank you. All right, I'm going to.
I
Yes.
vote aye.
Excellent. Thank you, Cody.
Sorry, I was on the phone.
I'm sorry, you were right. Thank you for pointing that out. I guess all in favor, raise your hand. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Cody. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
it's It's emotion second is roll call vote. Yeah.
Thank you. Please keep keep correcting me where I go off.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're both learning at the same time.
Yeah. All right, so I am going to click on an allow to talk button and open it up for Joel if he would like to comment on anything. So Joel, if you're there, you are now able to speak if you so wish. And I will take silence as a no. Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Actually, I suppose I should share my screen for that. So we have the agenda up. Give me just a second here. There we go. Okay. And so we have a review of the financial report, which let me, does anybody have that handy that they could share their screen for that? If not, I know I have it. I just haven't opened it.
It's all more simple, right? Oh,
I'll look for it too.
it might be all more simple if it's not in the drive.
No.
Let me pull that up too.
Account form,
Yeah,
perhaps?
that's the one. That's the
Oh.
one. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Are you able to see my, is my screen changing, I guess? Or do you still see the agenda?
It's loading. Looks like it's loading.
Sorry, I clearly have a slow connection.
It's okay. My Wi-Fi has also been a little wonky today.
If it doesn't load, Bill, I have a copy here. It's a
Okay.
little bit fuzzy, but we could see the numbers well enough. So if
Okay.
it doesn't load, I could share my screen.
Oh, here we go. Maybe. All right, there we go. Still loading. Okay, and let me see if I can zoom in here a bit. All right, that's better. Okay, and so I will say I'm not a numbers person, so I will kind of read what's here, but if anybody has additional thought or detail, just jump on in. So I guess what we're looking at is our essentially the balance of our account that includes rollover from last year, which looks like was about $6,325. Our allocation from the state cultural council is 56. Can't tell if that's a 56 or a 58. It looks like it's, well, total revenue, yeah, 56,100. With our interest income of 1669.99. So we have the total revenues of 57,700 $69.99. We have our total expenditures. Account balance, local revenue remaining in account. And then there we go. Okay. Let me stop and say, if anybody has like real knowledge of this and wants to go through it, feel free.
From my understanding, the rollover funds are just for administrative costs, and if we wanted to do something non-grant related, so that's always been my understanding of why we have rollover funds.
And that's what I'm remembering from last year as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And
So can I
so
just fill in a little bit?
please do.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, just that I think in addition to what Cody said, that because we do have the interest income, right, which will increase the total.
Mhm.
And then the I guess one of the, I don't know if that's something we want to talk about this year, is the because I don't think we've typically withheld, I don't know, I can't remember if we typically have withheld a percentage for administrative expenses. But there's also, I know in the past, I think at least once or twice, and Cody might remember this too, where we would hold like a percentage of the total grant for doing activities that the council's initiative. So for example, like at the block party or something, you know, if we wanted to do something as a ACC event, it could go to pay for something like that, or it could just be something that of our initiative, or, you know, I think in the past too, we've done like a video, a promotional video for the council's work too.
Gotcha.
So those are the kinds of things that we could, you know, use that money for.
Okay.
So this is, if this is like for the past year's accounts, that means that, whatever money we have like for the grants this year will be added to this. Right, because this is for FY 25, this report. Or is it, oh no, it's this amount
think it's a
available for
combination.
grant is down here, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And so that available for granting takes into account this remaining available balance, which that was account balance, and then we have these expenditures. Yep, go ahead, Cody.
No, I was just trying to do the math
Okay.
of how much we actually have for grant.
So if I'm reading it right, we have the 56,000, which is our allocation from the Mass Cultural Council. And then we have this 3,000 and change, which is the remaining balance. And then, which gives us a total of 59,000, but that 3,000, that's the fund that, Rachel, that you were just speaking about.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So we technically have 56,100.
That feels like a good, a prudent sum to use, is the
Yeah.
allocation part, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add that I think it might be worth asking Angela about this, but I feel like I remember last year at some point us talking about like the administrative fund part where the LCCs can set aside 5% of their state allocation. I feel like there is something that in the past we have used for that, and I feel like I could be totally wrong, but I think it was some kind of subscription of some kind. like a, or I could be wrong. I don't know why I feel like I'm thinking it's like Adobe Creative Suite or something like that, or something administrative that would help us like with a task.
Oh,
Maybe it might be worth
Yeah.
that does
asking
sound
Angela
familiar.
if there's something like that that we need to do, like
Yeah.
anything with
Yeah.
or consider.
I think you're referring to the surveys that we've done 2 years ago, or was it last year? I forget. Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt to do one again, just see where we are at.
I think that would be a good idea. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think that is definitely worth maybe doing a little bit of, or at least me doing a little bit of homework, and we can maybe discuss it at the next meeting and figure out what that would entail from us in terms of funding and work and things. But I agree, like it's been a couple years since we had a survey. I think it's important to know, like you all said, where we stand and how our citizens are viewing the work, and where we need to adjust.
Yeah, and it did help us last year to like make sure we don't have too much of
hey there.
like that or something like that. So yeah.
All right. Um, so it sounds like we want to approach this maybe using right now the 56,100 as the limit for what we're going to grant, with possibly a discussion maybe with Angela next week, about whether we need to set aside any additional funds for other needs that we
Yeah.
might not be aware of. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Then we'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah. That's fine with me.
All right. I think that is kind of the extent of the financial form, unless other folks have questions or comments that they want to add.
I was just gonna, sorry, I was gonna add quickly that hopefully everybody who was granted the money collected their money. Because
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because I presume so, and I bring that up in part because like for anyone who maybe has applied in the past and got grants, but like didn't fill out their financial or their report,
yep.
does that disqualify them from being granted something this year if they apply? So that's I'm kind of bringing that up in relation to our process before I forget. So
Yeah, no, that's a great point, that we should at least have that knowledge as we're reviewing the applications. I'm sure we have that data somewhere. I don't know that it's been specifically pointed out to me, or that it's
Yeah.
available online yet.
Yeah, I don't know where to find that. But we need to know, because it'd be not good if we write something and then they got a track record just not submitting this stuff on time, and we short someone else that could have got more more money if we could. So I definitely would go back to Angela and try to get that info.
Yep, 100% agree. I will, obviously she'll be reviewing this meeting and we'll hear the discussion, but I'll also drop her a note and see if that's something that she can have in advance of the next meeting so that we can have it as we start our review.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up because I know last year I feel like we had a discussion early on about us or like what our stance is on how much we are like what our total number of funds that we're using for the grant cycle.
Mhm.
And I know that there is the opportunity to reserve some funds. So in the cultural council, obviously as things are changing in the outside world, and funds are kind of fickle. I just wanted to bring to the table that it might be prudent to think about um like especially like the interest accrued and like that administrative like part that we can kind of set aside just to kind of think about the longevity of like if we're not able to get as many funds next year, how can we kind of steward our funds well this year so that we might have something next year to disperse, in case funds are not able to be at the
Yeah.
same level as this year. I don't know. I
I
know
think-
that's something that we did last year, and so I just wanted to bring to the table if that's something that we're interested, or do we want to just give the maximum amount this year?
Yeah, I think we're limited on the amount we can hold back. Sorry, Cody, go ahead.
No, I was about to say with the whole language around DAI and the power, the thoughts of that with the powers that be, that's a realistic concern, and so we could definitely talk about, well, do we hold a few more thousand just as a reserve?
Yeah, it's worth a discussion. And again, I feel like there might be a specific number a maximum number we're allowed to hold back, expressed in percentage.
It says on the form, though. It says on that form, the finance
Okay.
form, I think it's 5% we can use for admin, and then 10%, is it, I think it's 10%, up to 10% for council programs. So that kind of is our top,
That's our top line.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then I know that the interest is not counted in that. So the 5% would be strictly on like the amount that we're getting from MCC directly. So we don't have to do the full 5%, but I just wanted to kind of bring that into the conversation because yeah, the way that things are going, I feel like it might be prudent to think also about, like having a healthy financial situation for next year as well. So we
Yeah.
can continue to serve the community well.
No, I definitely, I haven't thought about that till you brought it up, but we're facing this reality, and that's a really valid point. I mean, something I wish wasn't valid, but hey, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very true. All right, so does it seem like maybe a good path forward would be to next week so what I'll ask Angela to do is inform us of any fixed costs, like I think we talked about last year that we may need money for. Take a look at, okay, what does holding back 15% look like to our total budget? And if we're comfortable with that number, we can use that as our limit for granting for this year and keep that 5% plus 10% in reserve to hopefully keep us healthy in years going forward. Does that seem valid? We don't have to vote on that tonight. I don't think we should. We should have the numbers,
Yeah.
the knowledge that Angela has before we do that. But does that seem like a valid way forward for you all?
You,
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anything else on the finances part of this?
Could I just add, please, that I think
Mhm.
that's great that we're, having these considerations, I think, but that shouldn't hold us back from starting to review the application, because there are a lot to look through. You know what I mean?
Fair.
So I think we should probably do both at the same time, because it might not come out to be an exact 10% or 15%. It could be like, that's the general target we have, but then when we want to balance the numbers at the end, we might dip into that. So I think,
Gotcha.
because I mean, having reviewed these applications before, they're gonna take a lot of time. So,
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
I think if we could do both at the same time, that would be ideal.
Yeah,
That's
no,
my,
that makes perfect sense.
I think that's a super important consideration, Rachel. Thank you for bringing that up. I guess my question is, with the 10% for cultural programming, do we have an interest in doing something that's like ACC like specific? I think I think for me, I think that's important to outline. Maybe it's not the most pressing thing, but at some point I feel like it'd be a good idea to chat about what the possibilities for that look like, what that would look like.
I think a couple of years ago, we did do something like that, was because in addition to the block party, something happened during the spring because, coming out of the pandemic and all of that. So we had set aside funds to do something with that. So I think, if we, before the grant, before the applications, before we vote on all the, how much we're spending on the grant, we decide how much we're gonna hold back. Then I think maybe in the new years when we can talk about what exactly we want to do
Yeah.
with
I
that
think-
money,
yeah.
right? So we'll have that. So that's what I would propose. Having, like gone through this.
Work backwards.
Yeah. So I think if we
Yeah.
set aside the funds and then decide, if we're in agreement that, oh, maybe we want to do something as a council, then we can, because once the grants, the decisions are made, that's kind of like, that all has to get wrapped up in, I think, January or February. So I would propose that working on that part of it
Yeah.
in the new year,
Sounds great.
because we have that deadline to meet for the grant making decisions.
If we set aside the full 15%, we would have about like $47,685 to allocate.
Mhm.
So do we want to maybe for right now stick with Angela's suggestion from last week or 2 weeks ago, where we shoot for like 49,000 in our just own internal like ways we're evaluating, and then if we're able to be more lenient like with how much we set aside for us,
Yeah.
then we can increase it from there.
I agree.
Yep, that works for me.
So that'll be what we have 7,000 in reserve if I'm doing the math right.
Sounds right to me, Cody.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was worried that. And yeah, I also hear so we can hammer that out towards or in the new year. So yeah.
Jess, I love what you just said about kind of,
Yeah.
you kind of given us that window, and I think that seems very reasonable. Thank you.
Not
Okay. So I think the next item on the agenda is to kind of discuss the spreadsheet that has everybody had a chance to take a look at it and maybe even enter some data in it?
I mean, that was, I'll be quite honest, that was on my to-do list this week. I've been on the road last week,
Right.
so
I forgot about that, Cody. Thank you.
chaotic week. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can share my screen and we can talk through any points that any of us might have. I mean, full disclosure, I looked at it last night for the first time, so I haven't gone super in depth either. But I feel like if we have any major things that need correcting, we can make those so that we can start the evaluations, relatively quickly, considering we've got 111 to get through.
Yeah, I'm planning to start my evaluations this week. And if I usually do 10 to 20 per week. But given that timeline, I may have to ramp that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and the rest of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that brings up another question in my head, but why don't we take a look at the spreadsheet first, see if we've got anything that we want to send Angela in terms of edits or changes. And
I did actually have an issue. I also looked at it for the first time yesterday and tried to like enter information in for that first grant proposal that came up. And I wasn't able to edit the spreadsheet. I don't know if it was just me or if anyone else was having, or I mean, we can check now.
I noticed that too. I actually ended up saving it to my local drive just so I could play around with it. But yeah, I think Angela would need to change the permissions to give us the ability to edit.
Oh, I see. So all I did was I just plugged in numbers for the first two just randomly to just double check that the formulas all worked. So they all
Gotcha.
worked. So like they added up my totals and populated the master spreadsheet with my information. So those
Okay.
formulas worked. But I am curious, especially for those of you who haven't done this before, or more than once or twice before, what you think of the number of categories there to score.
I think, oh, sorry.
Nope, you go ahead.
Jessica.
Oh, you can go ahead first. Go after.
I was going to say, I think it might be a little bit difficult for us to go through during our meetings, to go through all of these categories in order to like officially assign a number. But that was my only thought.
Yeah, I had like a similar thing where I feel like it might make it easier, like for me internally, just to be like, okay, like yes or no. But then it's like, are we assigning each of those individual questions like 1 point out of the 5 category points that are available? I was a little confused about that.
It looks like what Angela did was she took, the sample scoring sheet that the Mass Cultural Council provided. We looked at that before, where I think the total was like 20 points, right? If you get a full score, because there were 4 different categories. I think she pulled each of the criterion out of those categories and plugged it in here.
Yes.
So, and I personally, I feel like that is way too many to have to do individually for that many applications. And I don't know that we would get through it like, in a reasonable amount of time. That's my concern.
Well, and so a question that I had related to that is, do we need to discuss those numbers, or are those numbers just to inform us, each of us, how much money we grant to it? Or do we actually have to agree on the scoring sheet numbers?
I got a comment. Is the resident, is the applicant a Town of Amherst resident? In my opinion, we got some great, reliable, great applicants year after year that are not. So I wouldn't invest. We can keep that question, but when thinking about, well, do they qualify? Don't read too much stock into it, but I will flag. Let's say if they're from Boston, I know we've had a few iffy ones that just felt like they hit apply to every single council. I will say be mindful of that, but if it's especially if it's, the Pioneer Valley, they are just equal as someone in Amherst. I mean, it's a bonus if they live in Amherst, but I wouldn't read too much into it unless you got true says they just submit just to see what happens.
Yeah, okay. I think that's where I was ending up as well.
I think for me, I think I definitely agree. I think it's a small factor in many for whether or not something will be fully funded or whether or not I feel like it should be allocated funds. But I do think, like, for me it makes sense to prioritize projects that are based in this area. And by this area I mean like Amherst, maybe Northampton, East Hampton, maybe all the way up to Springfield and up to Greenfield as like a nice radius. But then like specifically like really taking a look at the ones that are going to be in this immediate area of Amherst first, and then deciding, okay, like we're gonna fund something a little bit farther away from our radius, but maybe like we will wait to consider it. I feel like there should be kind of weight to the fact that it is the town of Amherst resident or town of Amherst project or something that will affect residents in the town of Amherst, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I mean,
I think there's not
I-
places that town of Amherst people can, you know, apply for funding. But if you live in Springfield, you may have another funding source that you could be able to, you know. So I think that's my thought.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think a priority range be Amherst to Northampton and anything outside that radius is out for conversation. Regulars that or outside of that radius. So I'm just keeping that in mind as well.
Yes, Rachel.
Did you all see the document Angela shared in the folder about the priorities? Because I think it would be really helpful if we could agree on those today, because that'll help us with our respective scoring going forward. And I think, you know, and then maybe we can trim down the number of categories that we have to give points to. So if you don't have that handy, I'll pull it up, Bill.
I think that's
but
a great
maybe-
idea. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.
Yes. We do not have that one open.
Okay, so may I share again or?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me see, where's my button here? Okay, because I think that will really help us with the kind of like focusing on conversation and just, do we agree with these principles? And then, you know, can you see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think these are from some of our past guidelines too. So we require projects to have broad public benefit for the community and prioritize those from and for BIPOC communities, individuals with disabilities, low-income communities. So that's something, you know, we could decide if we want to go ahead with all of that, right? And then and depending on what we decide, then I think it'll help us kind of come up with the categories for scoring, right?
And so this is how the logic in my head is working, so correct me if I'm not right, but we would use kind of whether or not it's in Amherst or in close proximity, as well as prioritizing projects for BIPOC communities or individuals with disabilities. Those would be kind of our primary filters to get an initial list. And then from there, we would score them according to other, whatever we decide on other, maybe a smaller set of categories.
Yeah. So maybe on the sheet add a column or just where it is. That way we don't have to dig through stuff we're talking about that we can say, oh, Harry, oh, Aaron.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just looking through the spreadsheet and make sure I didn't miss that. But no, the only location question right now is whether the applicant is from the town of Amherst.
Can I, Bill,
Yep.
I just want to step back a little bit and ask those of you who used the scoring sheet last year, and also for Jess, looking at a spreadsheet like this for the first time. Like, Jess, last year, I think we only had like one score. We gave, like, how likely do we want to give this a full funding, or, so that was only one set of, you know, one answer, and then this one has 15 columns. So, I am just curious whether, you know, from your perspective, if we want to be scoring it to that granular detail for every single application, or can we kind of decide on like maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 categories that would encompass our priorities and go with the points like that. Because then we might come out with a total of like high score being maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 or 20 versus 75. I mean, that's just a numbers thing, but I don't know how you all feel about how many individual criteria you want to be looking at for every single application. And then assign numbers to them, because that can become, very, very time consuming. That's my concern. So please,
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I could see us having the like 3 separate categories, and I think that one, thank you for like showing us this document, because I think that this gives us very at least 3 clear buckets that we can evaluate on. I think one of them is like, is the project based in Amherst, or does it involve members from the Amherst community? Is there a benefit to the Amherst community?
Yeah.
The second one can be, is this for and by a BIPOC community member? Is it for individuals with disabilities and low income communities? And then the third one can be like, what is the scope of the project? What is the projection of public benefit that we see? And I can see that being, or maybe the third one is again, like, how likely are we to fully fund? I think that one can be, a little bit more dubious, but I think that I agree that speaking transparently, like, we have a lot of grants to get through, and especially if our expectation is that we're looking at all of them before each meeting and kind of coming prepared to champion a couple, I think it might be a little bit easier to do that, at least with my schedule, if we funnel them. And also, I think this feels more focused to one, what we have already established as a cultural council that we want to prioritize. But I think it'll be easier to say, you know what, this falls out of our scope. Let's wait to see if we have the funds to fund this. And it's not that we don't want to fund. I think the goal is to fund as many projects as we can that will, provide benefit to the community. But also, I think it's important to prioritize so that we're able to do that as well. But I think this is an excellent point.
No, uh, you know, yeah, 3 or 4 buckets, 1 for 5, grand total of 20 points, but also add a space for additional comments. And also, I like the idea of saying where it is. So it'd be, well, 5 required quorum and 1 optional one. So 6. But the location. I mean, my question is, should the location be a 1 to 5 rating, or just for our information to help us decide?
So I might be thinking too narrowly about this, but I feel it would be hard to have a 1 to 5 scale for location unless we set like a mile radius or something. Because I don't know how else we would score it. Like, yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, no, I was just thinking that would just be part of the criterion for the overall score. So, you know what? I just remember this old template that we had. Do you mind if I just share it with you briefly? Because it basically encompasses what we're talking about with fewer categories. So
Sure.
maybe we could just use that as a reference if you don't mind. Because Cody, this will look familiar to Cody because we've used something like this in the past. Okay, so On the other side, it was like kind of all the data that's imported. So this is the part that we worked with. So I think that between all these questions, it covers what we were talking about with the criteria. So if, do you think it makes sense for us to just look at these now and decide if, we want to reward them and maybe just even scale this down further, because this has 1, 2, 3, 6 categories. So I think if we could decide today, oh, Jess, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say I agreed with what you all have been saying before. And as you were speaking about the different categories and the different buckets, I was thinking like they could kind of be sorted into like community impact, where you're talking about like what specific communities is this programming like, or like what specific needs is it addressing, what specific communities is it catering to, and accessibility, where it talks about like, is this primarily for like Amherst residents? Is it accessible to most Amherst residents if it's not like necessarily run by someone from Amherst? And like maybe like planning / overall merit, where it's like it's clear where the money would be going. And then I liked the first category where it said like topical relevance, or similar to what it said in the MCC like example guidelines, where it had like originality, creativity, like something like that, where we can kind of judge like, does this look like a programming that would be out of the ordinary, or something that Amherst residents like would maybe want to see?
So if we were to, based on what you just said too, Jess, does that mean that if we were to take those 4 kind of headings in that score sheet and make those the categories on which we're scoring, then we only have to score in 4 buckets as opposed to 15? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, so rather than like going through each of the individual questions, kind of lumping some of them together and maybe
Yeah,
adjusting
like-
a couple things.
Yeah, we could rename these headings, but I think that covers everything we're interested in, because I think each of these bullet points became an individual scoring category
Right.
on our current spreadsheet. But I think it like the headings encompass what, and there's like another page here, planning budget.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
I also think it could be helpful to have like I think we might already have this, but like a note section where we can kind of add details and like say like, oh, like this is specifically what I pulled from this that would help us. Because I think again, when we're in the process of saying like, yeah, I'm championing this specific project, like I think those notes can be helpful. But it might not necessarily need to be a part of like the granular scoring for every single one. But it still could be helpful if one of us picks up on it and we want to mention it. But
Because of these,
totally,
yeah, sorry.
no. I was gonna say the headings are perfect, and again, nail on the head. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And are we happy with the like 1 to 5 or 0 to 5, right? Scale. We're good with that, right? Like something that has no relevance, for example, might get a 0 somewhere. So
Yes. 1 to 5 is easy.
The rating scale it lists there like makes sense to me. I would be open to extending it 0 to 5, where the 0 is just like, you bombed. You did terrible.
yeah, because we have seen those in the past. So which, because it's, it's a fine project, but it's just not relevant to what we're doing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like we want to revamp that spreadsheet just to have the 4 categories listed here, 1 to 5 scale with also a column for notes. Does that sound right?
Can we do 0 to 5, Bill? Or
0
just
to 5
do
scale,
people not
sorry,
want to
yeah.
do that? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm good with that. Should we take a vote on this just to be official? I mean, I guess it can't hurt.
Sure, I'll make the motion
Yeah.
to scale the, I mean, to use these 4 major categories for scoring. And are we happy with the headings as they are?
I
We are,
wonder,
right?
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have just one point, which is like in the town priorities list, it specifically mentioned like Amherst specific and like BIPOC, like low income specific. And I thought it might make sense for us to divide that into like 2 separate categories and then maybe have planning and budgeting be like 1 category.
Mm,
I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
because budgeting is part of planning, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So Jess, can you name those categories again, please? Like what would be the 4 buckets?
So like planning and budgeting, like the creativity, originality, like that bucket, and then community impact, where it's looking at like what specific communities and like identities of people are being like primarily targeted with the programs, and then accessibility, where it's more of like Amherst Town residents, how accessible is this program for them?
So that's like the community benefit part, right?
Yeah, but community benefit is broken into like community impact and accessibility.
Okay. So that means, but accessibility in the sense of people participating. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that reminds me, just, I think you all know that maybe just you're not less familiar with this, is that I think, in the past, we've set aside money just to support accessibility accommodations. So so if any of the grant applications indicate that, I just want to raise that because I just remembered that, that was something that people sometimes might get extra money for if it's relevant. So the 4 categories, the first one would be the same, right? Quality, originality, and creativity. Okay, and the second one, community benefit, would become accessibility, and what's the other one?
Community impact.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then planning and budgeting becomes 1, is that right?
Yeah. I don't know. Do people feel like that's getting too into the weeds or like taking away from like planning and budgeting, like looking at that overall?
No, I mean, I was wondering in my head whether we wanted to have budgeting as a separate category. It felt like we didn't want to focus. I didn't think we want to focus on it specifically that much. So I like the combination of planning and budgeting.
yeah, I feel like budgeting is like 1/4 of what I think about in planning. I think the biggest thing is like, do you have other people that you're reaching out to? Because I know that obviously there are some bigger projects that we're gonna have in our grantees. Um, but they'll ask several councils or granting organizations. And so I think with those, like I feel a little bit more comfortable like not giving a full request as opposed to some that, we're their full, you know, funding source. And so I think to me, I think the budgeting part feels less salient, but I also think case by case, you know.
Yeah, also if they're only asking us for a very small percentage of their total budget, like we don't really even need to question that, right? Like it's not
Mhm.
something we need to consider. You know, you're asking me for $500 out of a 50,000 budget. You know, that's we're looking at, yeah, so that makes sense. So Jess, I want to just repeat, so we have the first quality, originality, and creativity as one bucket, and the community impact or the community benefit becomes two categories. Accessibility to participants, is that right?
I guess accessibility to Amherst residents or something
Okay.
like that.
Mhm.
In the region, right, surrounding kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
around. And then the other one is community impact.
Yeah. Community impact is like the priorities. The council prioritizes projects for and by BIPOC communities, individuals with disabilities, low-income communities, and like that's kind of the focus of that one.
That's great, I love that. And then the last one is planning and budget as one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I would, I think that would be great. Thank you.
All right, is everybody clear on those, clear enough on those categories to kind of move to a vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's totally okay. I'm happy to second.
So all in favor? All right, so moved. Excellent. Okay, anything else on that subject before we move on to the next agenda item? All right. The next agenda item is any new business that was not reasonably thought of in the last 48 hours. Anything new that folks want to bring up?
No specific thoughts. Yep. It's good to see all of you guys. I know that we haven't, we've been a little bit touch and go, but yeah. So is the expectation that for our next meeting, this is like we're looking through them and starting, or do we have more things to discuss during our next meeting?
It seems to me like we've got our basic parameters set. We have an idea of what the total monies are. We have our categories now. We would want Angela to adjust the spreadsheet. But to me, that feels like enough to get started moving through these reviews, even if we have to make minor adjustments along the way.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So we could just take notes, right? Like we don't, yeah, until the spreadsheet's ready, you could just.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Each one, right, okay.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Anything else?
It'd be helpful to have the buckets in like an email. Cause yeah.
Yes.
I can send Bill and you an email as co-chairs if you want to.
Perfect.
Because we're not supposed to email the whole group or something, right? Yeah,
No.
so I will. The other thing I was gonna say is that, do you all feel comfortable like trying to put some tentative meeting dates together now, or is it just because we lost like last week, right? And then, because if the dates are available ahead in advance, then the public notice can go out.
So I guess a
that's the
question that I have is if we are, I think we agreed that we're gonna, before we make any funding decisions, we're gonna review everything. And I guess my question is, do we have things to meet about before that point? And honestly, I don't know, so I'm throwing it out there.
I mean, I'm fine either way.
I mean, it's just people are gonna get busy. So if we're, even if we're like looking at tentative dates, say 3 weeks from now or two, whatever it is that, maybe if we all at least know what,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I just, since we're all together right now, because there's so few of us to begin with, it's great if if we have enough people for each meeting so we can kind of move through everything. So that's all. But,
Also, what I'm thinking about is like having a date gives us some sort of accountability that, okay, we need to make progress on review. Maybe not all of them, but half at least by some date. So
So if well, tell me if this assumption is fair. An assumption of maybe reviewing 20 to 25 a week, which would mean that would take us, what, 5 weeks to get through them all? A little less than 5 weeks, I guess, technically. Which would put us 1, 2, 3, 4, middle of December. I think December 12th, the week ending December 12th would be 5 weeks.
I think that's pretty much a deadline too, like for notifying
yeah,
or making decision. I think it's sometime in mid-December.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like that might be a little bit too late.
Yeah.
Just because I know around that time we were like really like in crunch time and having double meetings and things like that. I think sorry, I think to clarify, are we asking for a like a break in meeting between now and then so that we can read and score, or are we still meeting throughout that time?
Well, so that's I guess my question is, if we're in review phase, do we have things to meet about before we come back and deliberate?
I think what this time works pretty okay with me. Like the 5 to, I know we're going slightly over, but 5:30 on Monday works. What
Okay.
if we met the Monday before Thanksgiving break as just a touch point of like, let's have maybe like half of it looked at least, or at the very least, like have like, I don't know, ones that we are 100% sure we want to fully fund by that point. So that we have something, and then maybe the second deadline could be like somewhere maybe like December 5th or 6th
Mhm.
or so that we can start kind of honing down on some numbers.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. I mean, I think like if we're not like scoring them together, it might make more sense to not meet so as to allow for time to do that. But I think it's up to you guys. Those are my thoughts. I think
I'm
we should just
fine with sorry.
No, it's okay. That's my bad.
I'm fine with the 24th meeting that day.
Mm.
I'm sorry, Code. I didn't catch that because I have a barking dog in the background.
November 24th.
For our next meeting?
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah.
that's
that would
2
work
weeks
for
from
me.
now. Yeah,
5:30?
5:30.
30
That
weeks.
also works for
Yeah.
me.
Are
Does that
we,
work for
are
everybody?
we aiming to have most of them read by then? Because otherwise it's hard to decide which ones we're gonna fully fund, isn't it? If we haven't all looked through all of them. So
Mm.
anyway, I agree with having a meeting before December. I just think that,
I think we can make our best effort, hopefully. Like just I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be transparent. This is my first year being a master's student, so I will make my best effort. Um, yeah.
I mean, I feel
Oh.
comfortable with having that as a, sorry, go ahead, Cody.
And now I'd say at least half of it done. I won't say all. I won't say all of them done because that's a lot. And I'm back on the road this weekend, so no, nothing will get done my Saturday to my Tuesday morning. Yeah.
Okay, so next meeting on the 24th at 5:30, shooting for at least half reviewed, if not more.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Great. And so just to kind of wrap it all up, Rachel, you'll send me an email and me and Cody an email with the categories that we've discussed and voted on. We can send those to Angela, have her make those changes, and in the interim, nothing stopping us from starting our reviews and making notes as we go along. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Thank
sounds
you
good.
guys.
All right, I think I have to officially move to, am I allowed to make a motion as a chair? Or do one of you all have to do it? Need to
One
read
can make
Robert's
the
Rules Order
motion,
again.
yeah, or.
I mean,
Okay,
Second the
happy with
motion.
motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Third.
All in favor? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
I
Have a
Bye,
good.
guys. Have a good
don't
night.
Thank you. Take care.
Don't forget to save the record.
Thank
Or-
you.
Oh, you can stop the recording, yeah, because you're the host, right?
Yes. So I
Yeah.
think that's, let me find the recording button here.
It's,
There it is. Got it. Okay. And by clicking stop, it'll automatically save.
I don't.
it might give you a
know.
prompt. It should give you a prompt.
Okay.
I'll stay on just in case.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
sure you want to stop recording to the cloud? Yes or a cancel? That
Yeah.
is not specific.
Do you have another option? Because
Nope.
otherwise it's gonna save it locally on your computer probably. So,
Hold on. I have
Well,
pause recording.
you can just send it to Andrew.
Yes, I can upload it somewhere that Angela, if it's too big for an email, and
Yeah.
if it goes to the cloud, she should just get it,
yeah, exactly. I don't know where it's
you
going.
know? Yeah, so
Yeah.